Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of the Low Code Café, episode 59. For those of you that are new to this event, my name is Bogdan Litescu. I'm the owner and CEO of Plant and App. And this is an event that we are doing for our community and our team. It's something that we do every week at the same day and the same hour. And it's a technical event, so we go a lot on showcasing the new features that are coming up, showcasing things, lessons that we learn on our support channel. And also the biggest chunk is showing Plant and App in action while achieving real world challenging requirements. This event is being recorded, and then you'll find all past editions on our YouTube channel. So make sure to visit, subscribe, and there's 58 hours of very good, interesting content. So I invite you to check it out. The agenda for today is we'll have Dale, our head of support, give us the from the trenches. So it's a lot about what we are learning on our support channel. And then again, Dale will continue to give us a continuation of what we started last week, which is building mobile applications with a different low-code platform, but then using Plant and App as the backend of that mobile application. So handling everything that is data and processes. So again, if you weren't here last week, make sure to go to YouTube and see the first part as well. It's very interesting techniques which add up to the big idea that low code is huge, and there is not a single low code platform for everything. It's a world of tools where you can leverage multiple tools to build something amazing. Cool. So without further ado, Dale, please take it from here.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Oop, wrong button. All right. Let me get my screen shared up. Okay. So from the trenches this week, picked out two topics to talk about. One, we have some software retreat notes. There's some upcoming deadlines. Just want to remind people, this was part of an email that we sent out a month or so ago, just describing how we're treating some of the DNN Sharp products. So at the end of this month, there's going to be new licenses will continue to be available for Action Form and Search Boost. And of course, Plant and App or the App Builder. Those are two names for the same thing. And those will be, and then the extensions, the add-ons for Action Form and Search Boost will be available as well. But after the end of September, that will be the end of new licenses for our other products. Our other products are all incorporated into Plant and App, and we would encourage you to use Plant and App. On October 31st, that's the next big deadline, the expiration of the 75% perpetual discount. So for people who are already clients of DNN Sharp tools, you can get a perpetual discount on the Plant and App product, and that's our way of recognizing your ongoing support to the community. And beyond that, love the pop-up messages. Beyond that, I wanted to talk a little bit today about dashboards. I know that we've demonstrated dashboards in past, but I took some support tickets with dashboard this week and wanted to just kind of demonstrate the process and show how easy it is to configure these. So dashboard. If you're using Plant and App, if you go into entities and take a look at, for example, I'm going to be dealing a lot with artwork today. If we edit entities, there is this slider box, this check box that says that you want to include the dashboard. And if you turn this on, it will activate a dashboard module on the page automatically. You can also add the dashboard module to any page that you want to display it. So that's the only thing I've done. I've already activated that for our artworks page. So I'm going to go to it now, and this is what you get. These, it starts out with 4 tiles, and you can configure the dashboard. So let's say that we wanted to list out the total number of artworks that we own. Also, perhaps the ones that are in the vault versus the ones that are on display. And so we'll configure for three different metrics that we want to display. So to do that, you start with configure and you give it a title. So this will be total artwork. You can pick an icon. So, well, pick portrait as the icon. You can pick a color, and I'll do a little bit more with color in a minute. We'll get this configured and then go from there. If you want to, you can choose an interval. If you don't choose an interval, it's going to refresh this tile when the page refreshes. Otherwise, for example, if we do 10 seconds, then every 10 seconds, that's going to query the database. And so as artworks were added or moved around, you would see these tiles update in real time. So our data source for this is going to be the entity. We're going to pick out the artwork entity. And the function that we want to do is the count. We want to count up our artwork, the total entries there. And we want to know for all time, how many artwork do we have? And it's going to base that on the creation date. Since we're doing all time, it really doesn't matter. And then how are we formatting the number that comes back? Well, we want it formatted as an integer. So if we go that far and save, it's telling us that we have total artwork 8. So that's the first, how do we configure one of these? Let's configure the other 2. These are a little bit more complex because we want to say that they are in a particular location. So I've got my locations listed here by IDs. And so the vault is location 3. So if we want to know how many are in the vault, then we'll use location 3. So again, this would be vault, 10 seconds. Getting it from the artwork. And we want to filter this one now. We want to say where location equals 3, because that was the location of our vault, location 3. And we are going to count up those. Again, we want all time and an integer number and save. So it tells us that we have 2 in the vault. If I can do this right, the on display, or it's going to be 6. We'll see if we've got that right. So on display, and the interval, again, we'll say 10. Entities, artwork. We're going to count up how many are not location equals 3. And we'll do that for all time. And wonderful, came out as we'd hoped. All right. So the power of this then, well, let's try for, let's do one more. We'll do new. So this will be new artwork and the data source. This will just be to illustrate using some of these other features. So the artwork function again is going to be count, but we're going to say in the last 30 days, based on creation date, how many do we get? So an integer number, and so there 6 of them are new, right, in that 30-day period. If we change the configuration and say maybe we want the last 7 days, we'll get a different answer. Now we have none that are new. So that's going to be time-based, but it tells you last 7 days. Okay, so I promised colors. I am, if you check my background, I'm near the shore today. So we'll do sea green. So I've got some colors here, green colors, sea green, and I'm going to pick a shade of sea green. So if you come up, like we've got a hex number here, and I'm going to pick this one at a little darker. So this will be my shade that I want. And so I can copy that. One of the reasons that I'm choosing to talk about color here is I wanted to just show how this works. You click, and if you have a color code a specific color code that you want to do, it's you actually have to paste it here. And then there's a little bit of a tricky thing. There's a scroll bar here. Depending on the size of your screen, it may appear that you want to hit save, but we really need to scroll down and apply the color first. And so we get our color, and now when we save, we get that color showing up here. So in the same way, we can color in the vault. Let's do a different shade. Let's say it's quite a bit darker. We'll pick this one. So we'll copy that. And scroll and apply and save. And so now we get different colors. So you can, you can do a lot with the colors to help visually group. You can help, red might be a warning number, and you're hoping for a 0 value there. Green, good. You can work with the colors and pick any color coding that you want. One of the things that's tricky about this product is if you want more tiles, right? We've got 4 tiles immediately. By the way, you can jump in with questions if you have anything on the chat or on the questions. But if you were to edit the page, and you can use the manage. I haven't tried on Page Builder. Let's see what we have. We have the dashboard. Yeah, we can go to settings there too. So, and that there we are, templates. So if you edit the template of your dashboard, it shows it shows the style, how it's being styled, and then by default it comes in with 4 cards. If you wanted a 5th card, you could just copy the same text here and add. You have to give it a unique name. So instead of calling it card 4, we could call it card 5, or you can be meaningful and say that it's the number sold or whatever name. But we'll save that template and refresh, and now we'll get an additional one that we can configure. In the same way, if you have too many, you can remove cards, and that will I'll let you add the number that you want. You can also format them and stack them. If you were to add, for example, just change the div layout, it would respect that. So, and now it didn't. There they are. Edit my templates. So, for example, if I wanted them stacked a little differently, I can set it up here like this. So we'll put 2, for example, in the first. We'll do 3. We'll put 3 in the first one and 2 in the second one. I like to line things up. So now we'll have a stacked layout. And so we'll save that and refresh the page. And so now we get it stacked like that. So you can adjust them through the HTML that way, and have as many as you need. And as I pointed out, they can be real time. So definitely worth playing with. A nice, easy way. Doesn't have to be on a Plant&App page. You can add the dashboard using the add Plant&App dashboard add module, and so you can put dashboards wherever you need them to be. All right, questions on dashboards? Otherwise, we'll move on. So that was from the trenches. We'll do low code, hands-on low coding, build a low code mobile application part 2. Last week, we kind of ran out of time, and so we decided to make this a little bit tech heavy this week. And so you get me for a full hour if I can have your attention that long. So last week, we decided we were going to do an inventory system and use the low-code mobile application Adalo to build a mobile application for our inventory system. And so it fell into two parts. We needed to configure APIs on our Plantain app system to allow data to flow into Adalo. And then we created the mobile application Adalo and got a certain distance with it, but kind of ran out of time at the end. Got a little lost in trying to write some APIs, and so we ran out of time. So this week, the idea is that what we did get accomplished, and we'll take a look at the application here in a minute, we did get accomplished to list out the locations. We were able to drill down to the items. The plan then is to go on and be able to drill down to the item detail. And so we're going to clean up the pages, kind of make them look nice. And then from a feature standpoint, I want to be able to add a button that will allow you to send information about a particular artwork by email. And so this is going to be a case where we have a button on the app that you click it, and it will trigger an API call to Plantain app that will build a PDF and email it. It's really quite a simple implementation, but it'll demonstrate that you can use Plantain app to do the heavy lifting of being the back end, and yet make it very easy for a user on the front end. Along the way, and depending, I don't think we'll have time for it today, but the plan then would be that we would also go on to being able to update the location by using this application, so that somebody that's signed into the application and has the rights to do it could move things into the vault or to another location. So that's the plan. We'll see if we get to that part of it, but I think the other parts of it we'll get to today. So one of the places where I left off last week was that we were trying to figure out, I didn't quite understand how to configure Adalo to correctly read this external database for artworks for location. And so I'm going to take a look at our artworks for location mobile API. And what I've learned since then is that I was trying to pass the location that I wanted as a part of the query string in the setup of Adalo, and that's the wrong way to do it. Because as we set up the API, as we set up the external database in Adalo, it needs to have data returned so that it knows what kind of JSON to expect back and what kind of data that it's going to have to work with. So it's a little bit of a understanding both products to be able to do that. And then finally, we pass location in something called a filter query. So I think that'll be a good place to dive in. First of all, let's take a look at the application as we have it built. I'm going to preview it. And so I'm already logged in. I have two functions, a home and a location function. I can click location and I can see all of my locations. These are the same ones that we saw over here on our Plantain app. And I think it dropped me offline for a second. I hope I'm back. So let's take a look. If we click the drill down, the idea here is that this is going to show us all of the titles that are in that location. And notice that when I do that, I have the Mona Lisa and the Scream as two of the titles. And when I go into a different one, like on the first floor in the West Wing, notice I'm still getting Mona Lisa and the Scream. So I've got a problem right now in the database. This is where we left off, where it's showing the same location, or it's the same list of paintings regardless of what you click. And so that's what I'm going to start by solving and correct that problem. So the first part of that is within Plantain app. And I'm going to drop out of edit mode here. Within Plant and Apps configuration, we want to look at the API, and I named all of these mobile so we can find them pretty quickly. So artworks for location mobile, we'll edit that and see what it's doing, and then adapt it just a little bit. So it's a get. It's returning some data. We have an input parameter of location, and there's no requirements or anything set on that, but it will need a location to work. And then we have two actions. We read all the artwork using the entity, and the condition is where location equal location. So this is going to help us drill down to a particular location. We're saying we're going to get all the records that are everything that's in that location. And then the final is we have a raw response where we send back the artwork as JSON. So that was the artworks is the variable there using this output token. So the problem is that if we need to provide a default location, I'm going to provide default of our vault number 3. So I'm going to just add an =3 here. So what this does is that when we go in and save and test, if we don't provide a location when we execute this, it's going to pull back everything from location 3. Before it was returning back nothing. And the problem with that is then when we were trying to use it in Adalo, we had no data. So here we go. So now we're going to get data if we have nothing, and if we actually pass it a location, we get different answers. So location 2, starry night. So it's working. Another thing that we should really do, it's a good practice. This particular one is a get that is running. Its security is public access. We don't care who looks at our data. So it's a good idea to test this and make sure it works before we go on to try and do it from Adalo. Otherwise, we can waste a lot of time like we did last week. So what I'm going to do is, using the sample code, I'm going to click and open this link. And this is going to give us the link that we need. But it's running a get on this, and we're getting back good data. So even without passing a location, we're getting back good data. And if we passed a location equals 1, we get different data. So again, it's proving it's working. And actually, I didn't prove what I wanted to, which is I want to make sure about security. And so that needs to be done in an incognito window, which I'm going to open now. So we're in an incognito window, and we're still getting data back. So this is saying whoever you are, wherever you are, you're going to be able to read this data. And so hopefully this will keep us from running into problems with Adalo. Okay, so back into Adalo then, and let's fix this problem that we have. So within our screens, we have a location, and this is where we've picked a location. And then the items is a list of items for the location. And we've added a query parameter that is passing in the location of whatever was selected on this one. But we need to correctly set up, if we go into database, we need to set up items for location correctly. So I'm going to go in and edit that and fix this URL. And I'm not going to pass in any location. And we're not going to pass in any location here. That's where I was in the wrong last week. So we say next, and run a test. And because we've changed it so that a blank, passing a blank location gives us data, now we see we're getting all the things from location 3. But because there's data returned, Adalo is now going to know what kind of data to expect and can work with that. So we're going to save that, make that change. So now, because we're passing this location as part of the query, a query parameter, it should work. So let's see if we get a better result. We preview, go to locations, per floor. And so now we get different. So we Starry Night, Kiss, Guernica, I don't know how to pronounce that one. Pick a different location and we can see 2 other ones. And if we look in the vault, that's where Mona Lisa and the Scream are. And finally, the Met has just one, the rest on the flight to Egypt. So we've got that working. And so now now we can go on with, we fixed last week's problem. Now we can go on with moving forward. The moving forward that I want to do is I want to add an item detail and also any other cleanup that we have from last week. So the idea is that as we are working here, that we would have a button where we can click and it would have another page that has the full detail. So you've dug down from a location and you've picked a painting and now you can see the full detail about that. So that's where we're going now. So new item. Within Adalo, one of the places to do that is we're looking at this list, and the list has a number of components. And up till now, we've set the title, which is coming from the items for location title. The subtitle we haven't set. So we could do that. And in fact, let's do that. A little enhancement here. So we will use this this magic text is the concept that they call it, and we'll put the artist's name in there. So now we'll have the artist showing up as that subtitle. The left section we've already set up to have, we've added a link to the URL where the image is. So it's displaying the image on that left-hand side. So that's the left section. And now the right section is turned off, but we're going to turn it on so that we can use it and put an arrow. So the icon that we want to use is, the thing we want to use is an icon. The icon is going to be an arrow. And so we'll just pick an arrow here at random, a right arrow. And then we have a place where we can add actions. And this is one of the great features of Adalo, where you can just tell it to go to another page and build the page dynamically. So we want to, the action that we want to do is link to a new screen, and the new screen is going to be called item detail. And I'm going to make it look like all the other screens that we have and create the screen. So now the click of the right section is going to link us to item detail, and we don't have to do any more than that. Within item detail, we're going to add some controls. And so the first thing I want to add is, let's see if we can have image. Yeah, here's an image. So we'll drop that on the page. And the source for this is going to be a URL. So the image is going to be, we'll use this magic text again. And the current items for location API call returns something called a link. We used it already over here, so we'll add the link. And if there's no image, we won't show anything. It's going to default to fill the space, which is fine. And that's it. So then I want to add the description underneath. And so that is going to be a text item. So we'll add that here. And within the text, we will just start that out and just put the description. So from the same set of data, we will pick the description. Actually, we need the title to carry it forward so that people remember where they are, and we'll add the description. And just for fun, we'll add the location. And so that is, let's see here. Current location, name, and ID are available for us because we've selected that here. And well, that's enough for now. So let's preview that and see what we have. So we look at our locations, we look at the first floor, we look at Starry Night, and now we have a detail page that has Starry Night, the description of Starry Night, and where it's located. So I don't know about you, I'm just kind of impressed on how fast we can build things and get things done just using the combination API calls and Adalo for the heavy lifting of mobile development. And so we'll pop out of that. At the end of last time, I showed the publish page, and if anybody wants to play along here, I'm doing this as a progressive web app, and I'm going to open that page now. If you want to take a look and use this app as we develop it, you're welcome to scan that now. It's going to bring you to a sign up, sign in screen. Most of you haven't signed up, so you'd have to sign up. It just very standard. You need to put your email address, put a real email address, because in a minute when we add the next feature, you'll be able to email stuff to yourself. And it asks for name and password. So you're going to have to remember the password. I think there's a password recovery. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I'll give you a couple more seconds to do that while I figure out where we are in our presentation. So we have done the item detail page. We've cleaned it up a little bit from last week. And so now we can move on to our next feature. And I think we'll have just the right amount of time to get that done. So the hope is that we're going to, again, use Plant an App to build a PDF of the item and then attach it to an email and send it to the person requesting it. And so I'm going to build this backwards. There's going to be three pieces to it: a workflow that's going to actually do that work, and then an API call that we'll call the workflow. So all that work will be done in Plant an App, and at the end we'll just quickly add a button in Adalo to get it to go there. So we are back to Plant an App, and so we're going to build a workflow. I did not realize we didn't have any workflows, so here we go. We'll start the first workflow. And so this is going to be, I'm going to create a namespace that will be artwork. I'm going to call it mobile. All the things that we do for mobile, we'll put it into that namespace. So we'll save that and pick it. And this is going, the workflow that we're going to do is build and send email. So I'm anticipating two inputs to this. We're going to get the email address and the ID of the artwork, and that one, the ID is going to give us everything we need to get to the other components. The process is going to be build a PDF, send an email. The output is going to be what was our result. So two inputs, one output. So the first input is going to be email, and the second one is going to be an artwork. Now, we're actually going to pass in an ID, but because we pick that we want a entity called artwork, passing in this ID is going to give us access to every field, every property of the selected artwork. So that's going to be cool. So both of these are going to be required. And that's it. On our output, we are going to output a result. And the result that we're going to send back is result, the variable. So we'll have to build up a result variable here as we go. And so that's our inputs and outputs, and we're ready to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is use a context, inject data, and we're going to build a result. So we're going to say result defaults to fail. And so then somewhere down the line here, we'll set it to true if everything worked out okay. Or okay. So the next thing we want to do is a PDF. We want to generate a PDF. And so the HTML code here, let's see, we are going to and we're going to use the artwork title. Remember that because we used artwork as the input and we're passing in an ID, we're going to have access to all the fields. So artwork title is available, and let's clean up the mess here. I'm going to just center all this on the page. We're just building up. It doesn't really matter too much what we're sending. We're really demonstrating how this works, but we'll add some fields here. And we might as well say who did it. And that should be good. So we have to give this a name. And so I am going to call it I'm going to give it a GUID. So it has a unique name. Somebody can't anticipate what the name is going to be. And I am going to drop it in, well, I wish I had created a place for it. I'll drop it in images here for a moment. The paper size I want to use is letter. And the output I want to use is relative URL. So, and I'm going to save that for now. And I really want to go in, and I like having a temporary, so in site assets, I'm going to create a temporary folder to hold this stuff. So that'll take just a second. You guys are quiet today. Somebody say hi. Thank you, Mark. We'll create a temp folder. Go back now to our workflows. We'll actually create a new tab here. And so we go back to our workflow. So we'll edit this thing. Glad that you're interested. Thanks, Jen. Okay, so now when we generate this PDF, I no longer want to put it in images, but we'll have temp to put it into so that we'll have a place to live and we have a relative URL. So it's going to build us a nice thing that we can use as an attachment. And then as our final action, well, not final, we are going to say email Send email. And it's always going to go to email. And the subject is going to be we won't get too fancy, you know. And we want to attach from token the relative URL. And that should be it. Last thing, and really we didn't do too much here with this, but we'll inject data and say the result is okay. So if things went wrong in the midst of what we did, we would be able to capture and test that. So this is going to be result okay. So finally, all that, we're ready to save and test. I am going to look up, make sure I have a good artwork number. So we don't care about locations so much for this one, but we want to do artwork number 1, the stoning of St. Stephen. So we'll test with that. So we'll send it to me. Send artwork ID number 1. It's running. It's got us a result of okay. So it says it did the work. Let's see if it actually did the work. And so the information that you requested from Plant an App is here. We have a stoning of St. Stephen, and we have it nicely previewed. So, oh, we did not put the picture, so that's no good. We might as well include the picture. So we'll go back and do that. And yeah, we got good time. So in our PDF, we can go down here to the artwork description, and underneath that, we will say we want to go into HTML mode. And source is going to be artwork :link. That's the name that I called it in the database. And we'll also give it a width equal 600, just to keep it from, let's say width equal 90%. Let's see if that works. So we'll save and test that one more time. So let's go crazy and do number 2, the rest on the flight into Egypt, so we can test to make sure that it's doing something different. And we get an okay. Just for fun here and to stall a little bit, if we look in the temp, we can see these PDFs being built. And ideally, we would get rid of these or delete the temp folder from time to time. So we have our new thing, the rest of the flight into Egypt. We click in on it, and now our PDF has the very short description, artwork itself. So that came out nicely. So next piece, so keeping track of where we are, we have built a workflow that does everything we need to trigger this thing. So now we just need an API, a way for Adalo to call it. So we will switch over into APIs and call it a new endpoint. This is going to be in detail mobile. We don't really care what its name is, and I'm going to make it easy on myself and call it a get. We need 2 input parameters, the same ones we're going to need pass. This is going to be email. An artwork ID. For our list of actions, we're going to execute build and send detail email. Notice it's asking our fields here, so we can say email from above, and also what I call this artwork ID. So we're passing the value of these things onto our workflow. And if we wanted to store the result, we could just grab it and store it into a field. And then if we wanted to display this as a response, we could, I'm just going to make it, well, let's see if I can write a little JSON here. No. We'll do a raw response and say, pass the result variable back. And so now we can save and test this. Same thing. Actually, before we do that, let's edit some more. We've already got our security, it's public access. So we can save and test it. And I'm actually going to just skip a step and go right to this one, where we're going to do it by way of a API call. Oop. I really needed that to be incognito. I like to test the security thing so I don't get in trouble. So we're going to send we got back a okay result. So the API is working. So now we're left to, now we can move on to Adalo. I guess we can look and make sure that it actually worked. And 46, no, it hasn't come in yet. We'll assume that it's working. So we'll go to Adalo, and now we need to make this call. So what we're going to do is add a new feature, a new thing to our item detail. That is we'll just add, sure, a button. It can be a button. And we'll name it detail. Give it some words. And the actions, we're going to do two things. We are going to do a custom action. And this is going to be till mobile. We just have to pick, is it a create, update, delete? They don't really care. The URL is going to be that one. This is going to be a get because we called it a get. We have to have a couple of inputs here. So one input is going to be the email. We'll give a sample value. The other thing we need is an artwork ID. And for example, one. So now the get, we can add a query parameter called email. Email with two L's. And the value that we're going to get, we will use the input email. And it's done with that. And we'll add another query parameter that is the artwork ID. And we will pass the artwork ID. And we're done. So we're not passing any JSON. So what happens here is when we run the test request, these temporary values that we gave is what it will use to try and run the request. So it says it was successful, and it picked out that we have a result field in our JSON. So it's automatically going to provide that to us so that we can tell the result. So now we save that as a custom action. And so on our click actions for this button, we have this send detail mobile, and we have to pass it some stuff. So we're going to pass it the logged in user's email address and the artwork IDs, the current item ID. And then when we're done, I'm going to go to a page that says, a new screen that says item details sent. That. Great. And so on the screen, let's add text that says and if we were fancy, we would grab that okay and do this conditionally, but I'm not going to get fancy. So let's see if it works. If anybody is playing along and wants to try this, you're going to actually have to close the app in order to get the new version. So you close the app on your device, and then hopefully you've added it to the home screen, and it'll be there. You can open it and try again. So if we go to the vault and look for the screen, let's do Mona Lisa. So we have Mona Lisa. That didn't display very nicely, so that's interesting. But we have a send detail button, so we'll click that. And it says it was sent to Dale. And so let's take a look and see if in fact, there it is, Mona Lisa. And there she is. Okay, so I think that's as far as we have time for today. Just recapping, we cleaned up the application. Let's do this one more time. If anybody didn't get a chance and wants to try it now, there it is. So we cleaned up the application. We figured out what I didn't know about external databases and passing information, so that we can drill down. We triggered an API call back that triggers a workflow. So now your imagination can just run wild. What do you do with, I mean, anything that you can do with an API action stack or a workflow or a series of workflow. You can think of the Adalo app as just a nice front end, not as you don't have to do really any of the work there. One of the things that I'm thinking of doing, how could we have made this better? Well, this email, could take some time. The process could take some time. So perhaps you could have done an entity that stored the request, and so you process the request offline. The impact would be they hit the button to get detail, and it would be instantaneous. The request has been placed. Over the course of the next minutes, it could build the PDF, do all the deep level things that you wanted to get accomplished, and then it would be done. Adalo has a form of push notifications, so you could have actually, 2 minutes later when it's done, you could have sent a message back to the user to say, hey, it got done. So, so Craig says it worked. Mark says it didn't get an image. On the PDF, make sure you scroll down. Oh, yep, it's on the second page. You found it. Yep, depending on the size of the image, it might go to the second page. Okay. For future times, I'm thinking about building a shopping cart so that you can buy one of our artwork, put it in the cart, and we can actually charge you on our PayPal integration. But I don't know, it depends on your credit limit. Bogdan, are you there to close us out?
Sure. Yes. Sounds wonderful. And I was thinking, when are you going to charge us for it? So sounds like there will be a part 3 to this.
Yes, we could. There could absolutely be a part 3, and I'd be very up to doing that if it so works out. So
I think that's a very good use case, transforming it into a shopping cart. Cool. So again, thanks everyone for being here today. Thanks Dave for arranging this content for us. Very, very interesting techniques. Can't wait to see our own mobile apps coming out soon. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week. I guess this Friday again, it's the low-code campfire. We are looking forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, see you again next week. At the same hour, on the same day, with new content.
Thank you.
Bye.